Hello and welcome. Sit comfortably as I am about to take you on a journey to a place that existed long before your smartphone addictions and ridiculous coffee orders. We are travelling back to the 16th century Siam, what you lot now call Thailand, where people had to talk to each other face to face and where going viral meant you would likely be dead within the week. Picture this. Dawn breaks over the kingdom. The day begins absurdly early in Ayutthaya, the magnificent capital of Siam. While you are still complaining about getting up for your 9 AM Zoom meeting, Siamese commoners have already been awake for hours. As the first light breaks over the Chao Phraya River, fishermen push their slender boats into the gentle current, their movements practiced and efficient after years of the same routine. What these history books will not tell you is that morning breath was a diplomatic incident waiting to happen. The Siamese were quite fastidious about oral hygiene, chewing betel nut mixtures that turned their teeth an alarming shade of red-black. Indeed, it is true that back then having black teeth was regarded as attractive. So, next time your dentist scolds you about coffee stains, just tell them you are channeling your inner Siamese aristocrat. Women of the household would already be preparing the morning meal, typically rice with various side dishes of fish, vegetables and fiery chili paste that would make your average Englishman weep into his Earl Grey. Unlike the bland, boiled nonsense we call cuisine back in England at the time, Siamese food was a symphony of flavours, sweet, sour, salty and spicy, all dancing together on the tongue. Moreover, they ate with their hands, mind you. Not those dainty little chopsticks you are thinking of. That is Chinese and Japanese. Get your Asian culture straight, for heaven's sake. The social hierarchy. Who is who in the Ayutthaya Zoo? Now, do not go imagining some classless paradise. Siam society was strictly hierarchical, with the god king at the top and everyone else arranged in descending order below. What is fascinating and rarely mentioned is the unique system of categorizing the population. Every Siamese subject was classified according to the Sardina system, which assigned each person a number based on their rank, from the king's 100,000 down to the slave's mere 5. Speaking of slaves, and I know this makes you uncomfortable in your ergonomic chair, roughly 1/3 of Ayutthaya's population consisted of slaves or debt bondsmen. Many voluntarily entered servitude to pay off debts or seek protection from a powerful patron. Unlike the brutality of European slavery in later centuries, Siamese slaves maintained certain rights and could even own property. Their children were not automatically born into slavery, and paths to freedom existed. Still not a recommended career choice, mind you. The aristocracy, meanwhile, lived in wooden palaces raised on stilts to avoid flooding and, I suspect, to look down on the common folk. These nobles spent their mornings receiving petitioners, managing their estates or engaging in Siamese national pastime, intricate political conspiracies. The court politics of Ayutthaya would make your favourite television drama look like a children's pantomime. Midday, when everything stops. Here is something your history teacher skipped. During the sweltering midday heat, practically all activity ceased. The entire kingdom took what we might call a siesta. Even the king himself would retire to cooler chambers, while the merciless tropical sun turned the city into an outdoor sauna. This practice, born of climatic necessity, created natural boundaries in the Siamese workday. Only the completely mad or the desperately poor would exert themselves during these hours. Instead, people rested in the shade, perhaps playing ball games like Siamese chess or simply gossiping about whose cousin had offended which minor official. Meanwhile, in the numerous Buddhist temples dotting the landscape, orange-robed monks will be engaged in their daily rituals, studying ancient Pali texts or instructing young novices. Nearly every Siamese mouse spent at least some portion of his life as a monk, a practice that continues in Thailand today. This temporary ordination served as the primary educational system of Siam, teaching reading, writing and religious doctrine. Afternoon, commerce and community. As the heat subsided, Ayutthaya roared back to life. The floating markets, yes, they existed and were not invented for your tourist photographs, became hives of activity. Women in wide-brimmed hats paddled boats laden with tropical fruits, vegetables and prepared foods through the city's extensive canal system. What is seldom appreciated is how international 16th century Ayutthaya was. Portuguese merchants haggled alongside Persian traders and Japanese settlers. The city hosted communities of Chinese, Malays, Indians, and even a small contingent of grumpy Europeans. Each foreign community had its own enclave, administrator, and considerable autonomy under Siamese law. This cosmopolitanism made Ayutthaya one of the world's greatest trading centres. The kingdom exported everything from rice and deer hides to saffron wood and tin, while importing Chinese porcelain, Japanese swords and textiles from India. By some accounts, the city's population reached nearly 1 million souls, making it larger than contemporary London or Paris. Evening, domestic life and entertainment. As twilight approached, families gathered for the main meal of the day. Extended families often lived together in cluster houses with multiple generations under one roof. Children were raised communally, with older siblings responsible for younger ones, while parents worked a remarkably sensible arrangement that saved on childcare costs. Entertainment in the evenings might include performances of Likke theatre or puppet shows, recounting episodes from Ramakin, the Siamese version of the Indian Ramayana epic. Music played on xylophones, gongs and stringed instruments filled the air with complicated rhythms that would confuse any European ear trained on comparatively simplistic compositions. For the court and nobility, elaborate masked dances called Kon depicted mythological stories with exquisite costumes and stylized movements. Each gesture and each position of the fingers carried symbolic meaning in the complex language of movement that took performers years to master. Not like your TikTok dances that can be learned in an afternoon. Night falls on the kingdom. As darkness enveloped the kingdom, most Siamese retired early, limited by the natural cycles of daylight. Oil lamps and candles were expensive luxuries, though festivals might illuminate temples and palaces with hundreds of flickering lights, creating scenes of otherworldly beauty. Before sleep, families might gather around the household shrine to make offerings to spirits and ancestors. Despite their devout Buddhism, the Siamese maintained an elaborate spirit world, populated by both compassionate and malicious beings that required constant appeasement. The dual spiritual system allowed them to seek enlightenment while simultaneously ensuring the local spirits did not cause their crops to foul or their children to fall ill. The 16th century was truly Ayutthaya's golden age, before the devastating Burmese invasions that would eventually destroy this magnificent city in 1767. For nearly 4 centuries, Ayutthaya stood as one of Asia's greatest capitals, prosperous, sophisticated and connected to global trade networks. So, next time you are slurping your pad thai or posing for photos at a floating market, spare a thought for those Siamese ancestors whose daily lives we have just explored. Their legacy endures in modern Thailand, although I suspect they would be quite bewildered by the crowds of tourists gawking at the ruins of their once glorious capital. Moreover, if you have enjoyed this little historical excursion, do hit that like and subscribe button. That is what one says these days. However, why would you want to hit anything is beyond me. In my day, we treated our possessions with respect. Until next time, this is your grumpy historian, signing off. Bye bye.